I remember for a while after my spiritual awakening, I thought I was someone special. Ooh, look at all my wisdom. I know the secrets of the universe. Wow, I'm so spiritually advanced. It reminds me of how cringy some people can get after they first unplug from the Matrix. You know the ones that call everybody sheeple and try to explain to you why the earth is flat. Then they think everybody else is stupid, but really it's just an inner projection onto other people to avoid the fact that their brain has gotten stuck somewhere in the evolutionary process in between ape and Neanderthal. Don't beat yourself up. We've all been there. The reason your ego still gets triggered even if you have had a spiritual awakening is because your ego has slipped in through the back door and has taken control without you realizing it. Just as the Neanderthal ape hybrids believe that they are woke, as spiritual people we often also get trapped into believing that we are more spiritual than we are. Now at my current level of consciousness, looking back, I can see exactly how I got possessed by the ego without realizing it. When you get to the point when you are no longer triggered by things, you'll know. Yesterday, I ran out of gas on my way to the gym. My car just locked up and stopped working. I mean, I knew I was on empty, but for God's sake. But I didn't react. I didn't have any concern, and I didn't have any negative thoughts. I just got out of my car and started pushing. The car was heavy. But it just so happened that I was about 100 feet away from the gas station. As I was pushing, a few guys stopped to help me and pushed my car to safety. I also discovered that I was out of oil. Silly me. Now, I operate in infinite abundance, okay? But when you only have a few $100s, it's easy for an unforeseen expense of $58 to kind of piss you off. But I didn't react or get triggered. As I was pouring oil into the car, the oil cap fell somewhere in the engine compartment. Bye-bye. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think I know a single person or have ever met a single person who would have been capable of not reacting through this entire process. I mean, this wasn't a big deal, but still. Most people would get irritated or frustrated. And yet for me, not a single drop of negative emotion, reaction, or thought occurred through this entire process. It was as if it didn't even happen at all. And I don't share this with you to say how cool I am. But I share this with you to let you know what it's like when you are fully in non-resistance to life. On the surface level, there may have still been problems, but it's almost as if the problems just worked themselves out without any effort on my part. I was just there, and things happened. There was no ego investment. There was no, oh yeah, I'm in this situation. There was no drama. There was no story about what was happening. And therefore, there was no getting triggered. You see, I ran out of gas right next to the gas station. People ran out almost immediately to help me. I felt happy to spend money that I didn't have. The cap to the oil should have been lost forever, but I was able to get it out with ease. Every problem that arises for you in this state, you flow through with grace. Everything is always working out for you. Life is there during every situation to help guide you. There is no struggle and there is no real suffering. People cannot trigger you, and even if they do, it's on such a rare occasion, and you learn from it immediately. But contrast this with most people that you see in your life. Every problem is, there's a problem happening and I don't like it. Why is this happening to me? Me, out of all people. You talking to me? I mean, there are people out there who will kill you for making fun of their shoes. I remember very clearly what life was like before true surrender. And to be honest, I don't really think that life without this level of freedom is all that worth it. I see people so trapped in their own minds, their own suffering, not realizing that they are responsible for all of it. Not the situations, not the other people, not their thoughts, but their own reaction to all of these things. So I want to offer you a bit of guidance that has helped me find freedom, so you no longer need to stay stuck in such misery. First, things will only trigger you when you are invested in personal identity. So if you get triggered, that means ego is still very strong. But at the same time, being triggered is a good thing because it's allowing you to be aware of the attachments you still have to certain identities. The problem that I think we all get at some point along the spiritual journey is that we come to premature conclusions about ourselves and about the way that life is. The moment you make any conclusions about life, about yourself, about other people, you have stopped on the spiritual path. And you get stuck or lost on this kind of detour. Early on, I believed that I was spiritual, but I realized that I was just rejecting my earthly nature. I was pretending to be more spiritual than I actually was. So people and things would trigger me all the time, even after spiritual awakening. But how could this be? I am spiritual. I should not be triggered. I am beyond these trivial matters. Only these monkeys should get triggered. Not me. I am ascended. I am enlightened. I am a golden God. You see, the only reason that we get triggered is because the reality in our mind is not matching up to reality itself. The only reason that we still get triggered is because our idea of reality does not match up with reality itself. The ego is still holding on to its model of the world. If I believe that I am spiritual, then anything that is non-spiritual will not agree with me. If I experience being triggered, then my whole identity is now in jeopardy. Because the spiritual masters don't get triggered. This should not be happening. And yet it is happening. This isn't right. I should be experiencing love and joy and peace. Where's the freedom? What is going on here? Have I been tricked? You see, we set ourselves up for failure by assuming a certain identity for ourselves. We come to conclusions about reality that are simply not true or sustainable. The ego always wants to hold on to things, certain ideas, certain beliefs. But true freedom is found where the ego is not. Which means that this process is that of surrender, of acceptance, of allowing. You dive as deep as you can into the present moment and you let go of everything else. The mind will then trick you and say, well, no, wait. Look at all these wonderful things that you are giving up. You have to sacrifice too much. Freedom, it's just not worth it. But the fact is that you are not being asked to sacrifice anything. You are only asked to give up what is untrue for what is true. What is unreal for what is real. What is fantasy and illusion for what is reality. Nothing is true outside of this present moment because nothing actually exists outside of your awareness. Imagine if you go to the movies and you park your car in a parking garage. It just so happens that you are watching Men in Black. So by the time the movie has ended, your memory of the past 24 hours has been wiped away. Now, where is your car? You might try and say, well, it's still in the parking garage. And I would say, no, you have no memory of any parking garage. Your car no longer exists for you. Regardless if the car is still in the same space objectively. You no longer have any memory of it, and therefore it is erased from your experience. Our minds are always using imagination and memory to assume reality. Memory and imagination are fantasy. But right here, right now, is all that is true for you. Ideas about the future do not exist, nor are ideas about the past. We believe that we have an understanding of the way that reality is. But we can never know anything but our own small, tiny interpretation of reality. So we base the entire foundation of our lives on an idea that is not accurate. Because in this limited human form, we can never truly know anything. Reality is always being filtered through our conditioning, our ideas, our belief. When you hold on to a memory or an idea of who you are, anything can come along, anyone can come along and trigger you. All they have to do is challenge that identity, because the ego is cowardly. It's insecure because it knows deep down that it has no existence of its own. And so it must react emotionally to avoid facing the truth that would easily just dissolve it away. That is why whenever you question somebody's belief, they get angry at you. Because the moment you question somebody's belief, you question their identity. And so it is never an attack on their belief. It is an attack on them. And people are forced to believe with absolute everything that they have in their little understanding of the world and of themselves. Otherwise, they are cast into the sea of chaos and they don't know how to swim, never realizing that their ego is kind of like an inflatable life raft with a big hole in it. It is false security. You have no choice but to learn how to swim. But in spiritual awakening, you learn to become the ocean. You see, we spend our whole lives living in our minds and very rarely living in reality. We project our own inner reality out onto the world and we call it fact. So long as we continue to hold on to these mental models about ourselves and the world, we will always get triggered. So the whole game, is that you go out and live your life like normal, and things will naturally arise to trigger you. Life will present to you the exact opportunities, trust me. And every time you get triggered, you do nothing but return to your awareness and realize that you have just been exposed. That for whatever reason, this particular situation poked at an identity that you are attached to. And in that moment, you either have the choice to continue to feed that identity and reinforce it, or let it go. And you let it go through your awareness of it. Because you recognize that, oh, wait a minute, that identity, that who is triggered, is not actually me. That is my ego. And I am not the ego. Once you begin this journey of letting go of your attachments to these triggers, to these identities, then you kind of just have to wait and allow the process to naturally take its course. Stronger and stronger attachments will begin to arise, and they will test you more and more. And depending on your desire for freedom, will determine how long it takes. If you're not that motivated, you might just continue to be content with your ego identity. But you just keep returning to your awareness, and the light of your awareness will dissolve all attachments. You will get triggered less and less by people, places, and things, until eventually you don't really get triggered at all.